most people who've invested in the cryptocurrency blockchain space don't really understand the technology so well. It's a big issue. For the last 2 years, I've been reading about, learning about, speaking about, investing in cryptocurrencies, and there are moments where I really don't know what I'm talking about, honestly. I've got to be honest. I see a new paper and I'm like, what the hell is this? But there are a lot of people out there who really are experts, who claim to be experts, but they really have no idea what they're talking about. I think a video from, if it could queue up, I'm not sure where it went, but here we go. There we go. So this video from right here, which from Seth Meyers, which I will show. Let's see. Go here. Why isn't it in the center? Anybody? Okay, so I'll just play it anyway. So this video from Late Night with Seth Meyers, I think, really shows where we are right now.
Well, you know where I put my money?
Where?
Bitcoin.
What's Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital cryptocurrency that works without a central bank.
Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, and it's so simple to use. Transactions take place through the use of cryptography and are verified by network nodes and recorded in an immutable public distributed ledger called a blockchain. What could be simpler than that?
Nothing. It sounds great.
Right. So is it like investing in stocks?
Kind of, but not at all.
Well, I'm on board.
Really? Because I have so many more questions.
Not me.
Yeah, so I think many people have that glazed over look of what the hell are you talking about when they're talking about blockchain and distributed ledgers and all this stuff starts happening. But so hopefully by the end of the session, you'll all have a better understanding of what blockchain is and why it actually does live up to the hype. But we're doing things a little bit different in this session. We're going to, instead of having a panel, many different people speaking, we're just going to have two experts from opposite yet equally important sides of the blockchain world, an entrepreneur and a banker. We'll see where they agree and disagree on things like regulation, use cases for blockchain, and of course, bubbles. But let's just take one quick minute to go over some blockchain basics. Adam went over a few, but just to sort of sum them up into one little thing. So in order to understand blockchain and its use case, you really have to understand how the internet has evolved from the point of view of the consumer. The internet started as an information hub. Instead of driving to the library, you would go online, read about something, and you have it right there. What then happened next was they took the concept of not having to go to the library and applied that to not having to go to the store, leading to the beginning of financial services platforms, e-commerce sites, and the like. But what's important to note about e-commerce platforms and all that is that you're merely buying and selling a digital representation of something in the real world. Blockchain allows for the creation, oh hello, just crushed my mojo right there. Hold on. Blockchain allows for the creation of digital value. The creation of something that is scarce, that exists solely on that you can't duplicate it. It's not able to be multiplied. Something that is easily transferred between two parties. And finally, something that exists solely on a network and not in the real world. I'd love to get things started. Please, I'd like to welcome to the stage our entrepreneur, Guy Karem, and Chaim Pinto, CTO and head of FinTech of Bank Hapoalim. There's water here. So we'll cut right to the chase with the first question. Hello?
Hi.
No, where'd the slide? I'm looking for the slides. Whatever, we'll just go without it. The first question is a huge debate in blockchain has been private versus public ledgers. A private ledger meaning something similar to Bitcoin, a private ledger being something like R3 and what Ripple are doing. The question to our esteemed debaters is, which side are you on and what are your thoughts? We'll start with Chaim.
First of all, the mandatory tie because you presented me as a banker. In my title, there's Chief Technology Officer, so just wanted to put it out there. Not a banker. I deal with technology, but I do work for the banking and the financial industry. Private versus public blockchain. I think that anybody who actually delve into blockchain architecture and business use cases realizes that when you want to use the technology, it best fits on an open platform. It actually aligns with some of the financial institutions' trends to move over towards open banking, and allows the federation of services on open platforms. Now, in order to get there, I think that there's a way to go. At least if you're talking about financial services and the way that we understand them and the responsibility that actually comes along with them. So I'm not surprised that we see some initiatives on the private side, but I see them as predominantly case studies and study cases to get closer to the technology, unwrap some of the internal elements, get our eyes and a good set of eyes underneath the hood to understand how that platform works, and then derive out of that business models, architectures, implementations towards broader use cases.
So I'm Guy. I was the CEO of Spondulistech once upon a time. We developed Bitcoin mining machines and ASICs, etc. And now I'm developing a cryptocurrency, public cryptocurrency. I think that's a better term. Instead of private, public is permissionless, which permissionless is public. Everyone can transact on the public blockchain versus permissioned, which is kind of it's closed ecosystem for institute that want to share data, etc. between them. And I think it's really depend on the use case. For currency, I think that private blockchain doesn't make sense. Only permissionless ledgers, and of course, you might want to do a settlement layers between banking, and then it might make sense to do a private blockchain. So that's basically.
Okay. So just to Chaim,
Sure.
blockchain has been thrown around a lot as a buzzword. Just people, Kodak just said the word blockchain and their stock quadrupled in a day. So the question is, what's the difference between a private blockchain that bankings are, or whatever you want to call it, permissionless, versus just a closed network that's done before? What's the big difference?
So try to imagine that I take your money and I put it out there, and anybody who has access to the internet can actually get into the ledger and see, or at least have access to the information that you have. You're moving uncomfortably at your seats. It's like, hold on, it's my money that you're dealing with. So as long as money makes the world go around, and we all know the song, and I know that this is the case, and it should be the case, and will be the case in the near future, I think that there is a huge responsibility to make sure that when you manage money, regardless where it is in the world, you do it in a responsible way. So protecting it and not holding open platforms without identity management, proper security elements, encryption, anything that you can think around making sure that I know who's doing what and when, and that they have the right level of approval to do what they claim that they need to do, and so on and so forth. The second element is around obviously aligning with regulation. Prove that what was done, prove that when the money came in, it actually came in, and when it went out, it went out. So I'm talking about the basics, obviously. So looking at blockchain as an underlying technology to do that, not sure. I am very sure around the distributed ledger, right? So we have IOTA, we have blockchain as implementations of distributed ledger. And there's a lot of sense in using distributed ledger technology where you want to create trust, right? And in the banking world, banks are trust agents, right? And just to put it in simple words, when you take $1 and you put it at the bank, you trust us that in 10 years, when you come back, you'll have the $1 in there. It's going to be there. $1 and a few cents because of low interest rates right now and whatnot, right? But you're going to have it. We're not going to lose it. And I think that is the basic thing. You trust us to keep the $1. We trust you that you actually gave us the $1. We take it, we put it, we make sure that it's there.
Guy, did you have you look like you were pacing a little bit. Did you have any
Unless
thoughts?
the bank fails, yeah. Unless the bank fail, which happens once.
And that's why, well, first of all, happily, right? That's not a very common incident, right? I had the very pleasant or unpleasant privilege to be in New York in 2008 to witness the financial crisis, first seat on the floor, seeing friends of mine, carrying boxes outside of their offices, walking with a glazed look in their eyes, going like, what just happened over here? There are procedures, regulation, and structure in place to make sure that when something like that, being extreme as it is, happens, governments and organizations try to protect the end user eventually. FDIC insured banking, making sure that you have government-backed organizations and that you work under certain regulations and procedures, which actually have changed since 2008. So every time an occurrence like that happens, there's an incremental change to the banking system. So when you look at 100 years of banking, you see the slow, gradual change to make sure that every time, and this is not Israel only, right? This is global. The regulator looks at the end user and makes sure that we want to protect the money. So I can tell you that a lot more startups fail. Money that is put in VC funding goes to waste because of failed investments. We want to talk cryptocurrency, Mt. Gox, the hacking into crypto coins that just disappeared and moved from one side to the other. I mean, the world is filled with those examples. Probability-wise, banking is a more safe place for you to put your dollars in.
Hi.
So, we all know the 2008 quantitative easing. People that knows Bitcoin knows that Bitcoin is a kind of countermeasure that was kind of developed by Satoshi as a result of the 2008.
By the alleged Satoshi. We don't know who he is.
The
or
NSA
they
team.
are.
The NSA team.
Or she is, by the way.
So, yes, of course.
It's possible.
People knows that Genesis block of Bitcoin contains a line from the Time magazine, January 3rd, 2008, Chancellor of brings of second bank's bailout. So it's an instrument that was developed to counter the 2009. This was an a crisis, and now we're seeing kind of 10 years afterwards, the quantitative easing is probably bringing to a stop, and we will see the results of fiat money versus cryptocurrency very soon.
So what Chaim was sort of alluding to a little bit is the idea of trust and privacy for banks, and how important banks need to have privacy, especially with new regulations that are happening in Europe now. So as someone who's a proponent of permissionless blockchain, where you're speaking about how, if you want to see this succeed, there needs to be some implementation of privacy. So
sure.
What are you seeing, and what are your thoughts on the need for privacy?
So since cryptocurrency advance, there are cryptocurrencies with focus on privacy. There is Zcash, which uses zero-knowledge protocol. There is Monero. There is Mimblewimble, and there is a very interesting company here in Israel called Starkware, Professor Eli Ben-Sasson from the Technion, that developed new kind of zero-knowledge protocol, and those kind of cryptocurrencies will allow complete privacy. Regarding trust, I prefer to hold my own private key, to hold my own currencies, and yes, you can create a cryptocurrency which comply with regulation without losing your privacy. You can create a setup in which you can prove to your taxman, to your government, the source of fund, etc., without revealing the exact transaction that you did. I believe that that's the future of the financial systems.
And do you have any thoughts?
Oh boy. All right. First of all, let's start separating the discussion between blockchain and cryptocurrency. Two very different things, okay? So blockchain is blockchain, cryptocurrency is cryptocurrency. I can talk later about what we're doing actually with blockchain. 2018, our customers will start utilizing the technology without even knowing, but we'll talk about it later. Cryptocurrency, big item. And in that perspective, I say little knowledge is very dangerous, because dealing with currencies has to be something that you stitch up, weave in, and understand, not only in your local jurisdiction, but globally. And by the way, one of the initiatives that cryptocurrency actually brought to bear is the ability to create smart economy environments. Local currencies in cities, in towns, in social groups and so on, and try to elevate some new exciting business models and banking models. It's still in a very initial state. I mean, I don't know a lot of organizations, companies, cities, municipalities that are using that. But when you talk about the currency itself, the reason that you have to actually make sure that you understand the ecosystem is there is a lot of regulation around it. Not only to protect and prove, but also to maintain the legal system, okay? When somebody does something wrong, let's take an example. We're in Israel, right? A lot of real estate over here, a lot of contractors. You hire a contractor to do some work in your house, right? They take your money and disappear. You submit a claim. You want to put a foreclosure on their account. Make sure that no more fraudulent activities will happen and seize those assets before they run away with your money. If the law, right, the government actually submits that regulation or instruction to the banking system, all accounts for that individual will be frozen immediately, regardless of where the money is, right? If you don't have all those procedures in place, that's it. The money is there. They have the private key. They're gone. You lost your money. The element of trust is not limited to you and the bank. It's between you and me, and you and me, and you and the bank, and your bank and my bank, and everybody together. It's not as easy to solve as that. So that's why I'm saying the first thing that we're going to see is the shift between, from using real coins and money into a cashless society. So in the cashless world, you all know that, credit cards, a way of cashless. I'm hoping that each and every one of the people who is in this room and lives in Israel has BIT installed on their devices to do peer-to-peer payments through your mobile device. And then eventually that will evolve into crypto and other methods.
So regarding trust, the contractor example you gave, you can do it easily with setups, with smart contract, with cryptocurrency. You don't need to give all your funds in one transaction. You can do it in tranches, and cryptocurrency support this use case, some of them. And I personally believe that fiat money future is via public ledger, via cryptocurrencies. Stable coins, we know that Venezuela right now, so of course failed countries starting first. Venezuela is talking about their own oil-backed currency. I'm aware of a country in Africa that's seriously contemplating cryptocurrency. We know about the Bank of Canada and several other West countries company, even Israel started to talk about digital shekels. Now, those are a permission system. Yes, digital shekel is not cryptocurrency, but cryptocurrency is without control, without centralized planning, will be here to stay, and it will be here to stay even when we move to cashless society, even when the regulators will probably try to block access to exchanges, etc. It will become a unit of accounting.
So we started getting into use cases, which is probably a big topic, and most people just know use cases for probably just from public knowledge is just use of payments, and was sort of what we're touching into. But there's also the other side is the platform, and everything's on top of that. The second topic that we're talking about right now are use cases for blockchain. What are the use cases that you think are the future? What are better? What are worse? Guy, I'll let you start this.
Okay, so first of all, currency and transfer of value. There is the smart contract use case in which you can programmatically programmatically money, add conditions, what happened to the money based on external events, which is huge use case. There is also, of course, identity management. There is and very soon there will be management of assets, of ownership, and we will see, for example, models in which we will have tokenized securities very soon.
Chaim?
So I think that there are plenty of use cases in the real world where blockchain can fit in and distributed general ledger can fit in. We actually, and I think that, by the way, again, separating crypto from blockchain, I think that crypto will get there, not at first. You don't want to start playing around with the most valuable asset that you have that makes your world go around, right? You probably want to start doing it in smaller and different areas. We actually identified an area where we're implementing blockchain for guarantees. Securities, guarantees, in Hebrew, arvuyot.
Inside the bank?
It's phases. Let's take phases, okay? The first phase, no, it's not only at the bank, obviously, because you don't transact with yourself. It doesn't mean that I give each other, we play around with guarantees and papers. The model itself calls for business guarantees for large projects, where today, when you look at trying to orchestrate the process between the issuer, the issuee, the lawyers from both ends, sorry, Adam, lawyers from all places, debating on the version or the way that you write your guarantee, you know, and the linguistic in it, and so on and so forth. You're talking about weeks to months before you actually can take it. Go to whoever published the bid and say, here's my collateral, I can do the job, this is the security that I'm putting in the bank to say, if I fail, I can pay for that. When you automize that, right, the first thing is digitization of the process, right? You reduce the life cycle or the time to market in order to get that piece of banking document. The second element is you create trust. So you put all those different participants on a blockchain, and you actually can get to a point that you track and you create the documents, and eventually you can submit that in a matter of hours. So shortening a process to the end user, that's the benefit. The fact that I'm doing it with blockchain, by the way, my customer doesn't really care how I do it. I mean, as far as, just so we be, you know, we're clear, as a customer of the bank, do you care what database I use on the back end in order to make sure that I keep track of your account? You don't. Do you care what switches I use in order to route transactions? Probably don't. What CPU models I'm using? That's the infrastructure. Blockchain over here, distributed ledger, is an infrastructure piece of technology that enables me to do something differently and more effectively, right? Aligning with the open banking paradigm that says banks will open up and start communicating with external entities in order to drive better service to the end users.
Just a quick question to Guy about what's sort of going on. We're speaking about all these different use cases. Many of the ICOs, and not sure if anybody's been tracking, but a lot of them are sitting on top of Ethereum. Ethereum, for those of you who don't know, is a platform protocol for smart contracts, which is what Guy's been talking, and Adam alluded to earlier. So why a lot of these coins, some of them, they're doing all these functionality, cloud storage, distributed computing power, all these other things. Why do I need any of these coins? Why can't I just use Ethereum for everything, the Ether, the cryptocurrency based on Ethereum? Why are there all these ICOs? And we're going to get into the ICOs later. But why, before we even get there, why do these even exist?
So the truth is, many of those ICOs simply use their own token to raise money. But there are some very interesting ICO that have a very interesting token economics and token model. Just an example, Wings, Spider Mix, and others, in which the token really does something. And you cannot do that with Ethereum. You can do that with Ethereum as a token on top of Ethereum, but you cannot do that with Ether because you cannot program how Ether behaves in certain conditions.
So you're saying that Ethereum can only interact to a certain extent, and then you have to build something on top of that.
If you want your utility token to behave in certain way, to have a specific changes in the systems, you need to program it.
Right. So, and to Chaim, you're speaking about sort of what Ledger and what back office systems that banks are using. Unfortunately, there's a lot of the technologies that banks use is based, very outdated. Swift is 80s technology. You have startups coming in basically to allow legacy solutions to comply with and to be able to even work with, new API programs. And while banks are adopting new front-end sort of UI UX solutions which change the user experience, there's still long times in terms of payments, high fees, slow transactions, et cetera, et cetera. So when banks are saying, and when you're looking into blockchain, is it being used for actually change, because banks are so slow to adopt, is it being used for actually changing something, or is it just for marketing and buzzwords and just to show that you're into this?
So I can't talk to the entire financial industry. I can talk to what we're doing, and for us, it's definitely not a buzz. There is a buzz out there, so let's not fool ourselves. And the question around why people use different tokens, the answer is much less technical than you think. It's because they can, right? Because nobody says right now, listen, guys, this is the structure. This is what you need to do. This is what you should not do. And this is how you actually build your ICO. So the lack of governance, the lack of regulation in those areas opens up to a lot of freedom, which is great. I'm all for freedom, right? But also freedom can be abused to manipulate, change, and deceive people as they're putting money into those instruments. From a banking perspective, when we look at blockchain, as I said, we don't use it as a buzz, though, because I have the privilege to run the FinTech program for the bank. We meet with hundreds of startups. And every now and then, I see a startup that we met about a year ago, and they have crypto assigned to it, or the word blockchain assigned to it one way or another. And I think this is a great buzz. There's a huge bubble over here where people know that is a hot topic. If you go 5 years ago, everybody was a cloud company. A little bit further back, everybody was cyber, right? So you knew the buzzwords when you wanted to create some traction and buzz, you knew what to use. For us, in the innovation lab internally, we took all those flavors of blockchain and we put them in and we dissected them and we looked at them and we studied the protocol and we studied the functionality to the point that we understand right now what value it brings. As I said, the focus right now is around trust, right? I know it's being used on crypto, fine, to the side. But trust is a big issue right now. So when we look at it and we decide to implement a capability, it's with the intent to elevate the level of service. There are a lot of elements in the core banking platforms, not specifically with us, all across the globe, also in the United States, Europe, and anywhere, that carry legacy technology with them. You won't believe the amount of COBOL programming that banks carry with them. It's there. But it is what it is, right? So there are incremental changes. And the reason that we're talking about incremental changes and not, hey, let's drop this and build something fresh and new, disassociated with everything, from everything, is because that fiduciary responsibility. We don't operate in a vacuum. True, Swift is a veteran technology, though it did have its updates along the years. But that's what allows you right now to move money from country number 1 to country number 2. It costs money, and people are working on alternatives right now. But today, you get that level of certainty that the money will pop up on the other side of the globe. No questions asked. You're going to pay for that, for sure. I know. But there's a level of certainty that will happen. And if it doesn't happen, you have someone that you can actually turn to and make sure that they move the money that you put. Again, that trust element.
It takes 3 days, and usually it's stuck when it comes in Israel. Then I need to explain to the bank, source of funds, etc., etc.
So I think Chaim, do you have any response to that?
Well, let's put it this way. If we lived in an utopic world where none of us had any malicious intents on the back end, those layers of security, governance, the deep analytics that goes behind it, and safety gates wouldn't be needed because we were all law-abiding citizens. Unfortunately, we're not. And when money gets stolen from one side, it's being deposited or broken down into chunks and put in different places. For that, you have to make sure that you get that trust and certainty that money is deposited and came from the right place, from a legal background or a legal source, that is, and is being deposited properly where it needs to be. That comes with a price. Technology can help us, as we move forward. But eventually, it's not only, we can point the finger at one person, but I don't think that that is the case. I think that we as a society got to this place together.
So we only have a few minutes left, but we'll hopefully have some time for some questions, but I wanted to get to, last but not least, we got to talk about cryptocurrency and ICOs. I put up the chart of this past year's gains. Those are billions on the left side, starting at barely at zero, and by 1 year, you're already at one point above 800 billion, and now down to, I'm not sure what it is today. I think it's not updated. I think it's lower than that. But anyways, what are your thoughts on ICOs? What are your thoughts on cryptocurrencies? Is this a bubble? And go from there. Guy, you can start.
So regarding cryptocurrency, it's a bubble, but it's a localized bubble. Amazon in 2000 was a bubble, but we all know Amazon share versus 2000. I'm following cryptocurrency since 2011. I've seen 8 or 9 crashes. It will be much, much bigger. Bitcoin alone, current market cap, I think 150 billion. I didn't check it today. It's much better gold, and gold market cap is 7 trillion. So there will be at least a 10x increase in Bitcoin. Regarding ICOs, so the first wave was utility token. Some of them was security in disguise of a utility token. I think those are great for building a network, for building protocols, and we will still keep seeing great ICOs in that field to finance better and better blockchain technology. But I think that the future of ICO is actually security token, completely legalized, under regulation, security token like Spice VC and other VCs that are starting to do a tokenized, security tokenized model.
Chaim?
So I'll start with a disclaimer. Nothing that I say should be regarded as financial legal advice, yada, yada, yada.
Adam, you want to come
Don't
back
make
on
any
stage?
financial investments based on what I'm saying right now. So let's start with cryptocurrency.
It's very Bitcoin to do it after.
Let's start with cryptocurrency. I have a base rule. When my mechanic tells me as he's changing the oil in my car that he just bought Ethereum, Bitcoin, and he's going to buy into an ICO, that tells me that we're in a bubble. Okay? Yeah, that's right. Making a lot of more money, on the side. But yeah, that's definitely a bubble in my view. The second thing I have to say around that is, as I said earlier, little knowledge is very dangerous, right, regarding ICOs. I have a rule, right? If I'm getting into a legally binding agreement, right, I call Adam. I ask his advice. He's a lawyer. He knows that stuff. I don't want to read those hundreds of pages, try to identify where they're nailing me in a subset of a law that actually was amended 35 years ago. He knows that. He keeps me safe. In ICOs, if you are reading the white paper and you don't fully understand every letter over there, I'm just saying there's an issue, there's a challenge, there's a risk, right? And we're all adults and we can make our own decisions, right? So I'm not saying anything pro or con. I'm just saying, IPO versus ICO today, I understand the cry out to distribute access to capital. Cool, right? We know. I think that we're on the path. There is a journey, and I think that we'll eventually get there with alternatives. Crowdfunding is one of them. Right?
Maybe.
Right. But yeah, there's a lot of innovation in that space. I think we're on a journey. We'll get there. I think we're in the first steps, and I think that we still have a way to go.
Guy, you said you wanted to say.
I want a very short story and a closing remark. So I'm going to my barber every 4 months. I told him about Bitcoin since it was $2, I think 2013, first time. And always he was kind of listening. And I took my last haircut 1 week ago. And he finally bought, so at 10,000 or something. That's a short story. One line that I must say, please remember, February 1st, 2018, the CTO of Bank Poalim called cryptocurrency a bubble. Bitcoin value is 9,500 or so. Just remember that note. And closing remark, and this is something that I really believe from the bottom of my heart, cryptocurrencies, the permissionless systems, not the closed blockchain ones, are an extinction event for traditional financial systems. It will take time.
Oh boy.
It's happening.
Chaim?
All right, closing remarks. I said it once, I'll say it again. Without banks, there's no FinTech, there's no Bitcoin, there's nothing. When you get anything, when you go to your ICO and you get those real dollars, you come to the bank and you want to put your money there. When you run a successful firm and you get money, you come to the bank, you want to put the money there. You know why? Not because of our database, switches, CPUs, and computers, because you trust the banking system. You might not be happy with it, and we joked about it, right? The BBB,
Yep.
big bad banks. There's another acronym, Google it, BAD, B-A-A-D, right? There are different villains coming over the horizon to take over humanity, not just the banks. But the bottom line is, you might not like your bank, or you might have different opinions. Your money is safe in the bank, right? And the second element, there's going to be a very long transition. I mean, will we see cryptocurrencies? I think we will. It will take us a little longer than what a lot of the young entrepreneurs believe. It will take us a little longer, but we'll get there. But in the meantime, I don't see any foreseeable way where that piece of technology will overcome the banking system. With this in mind, right? If you think about, I think we all agree that someone, somewhere, somehow, needs to orchestrate and regulate is a harsh word, orchestrate the activity of the financial system. Make sure that things are legal, make sure that things are okay, make sure that things are aligned with our society, culture, and everything, our principles. It might be a person, an organization, it might be an AI, right, eventually, as machines take over the world, right? But you'll still have that capability. So the question is not the demise of banking. If I follow my esteemed colleague over here's chain of thought, it will be when the Uber computer will take over humanity and control the blockchain networks, so we can say that we can fully transact our lives over cryptocurrency. It's going to be, one thing is for sure, it's going to be a very exciting journey. Innovation happens over there very rapidly. A lot of mistakes are being made, but then a lot of lessons. And we're making sure that we write down every lesson, we implement the appropriate technology to make sure that eventually the service to the end user is better, more secure, and safer.
Perfect timing. First of all, I want to thank our two panelists for speaking. There we go, handshake at the end, there we go. And I think they would agree, hopefully you all got some great information. We'll all be around here afterwards to answer any questions, giving you more detailed information. But I think both our panelists would agree that we're basically at the beta, if not alpha stage of blockchain development. And really there's a long road ahead, and there's going to be a lot of interesting remarks from regulatory bodies, from entrepreneurs, from lawyers, from banks, from everybody on every single side of the platform. And we're really excited to be a part of it and to have people like Chaim and Guy to have a discussion with us. So thank you guys so much for being here.